we need to be able to train ourselves. And it is a psychological shift. It really, really is. It does take time to kind of, come to terms with the fact that, sometimes it's going to take longer than you expect. And the way I always, say this is, anything that is worthwhile having is going to be hard to get.
That's right.
If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
That's
right.
Exactly.
So you have to really anchor yourself into, look, why is investing an option for you? And that will mean different things to different people.
Hi everyone, my name is Rehnell. Welcome to Discussion With. This show is aimed to provide advice, support and empowerment. Now today's amazing guest has worked for top banks such as Nationwide, RBS, and has also worked for an investment asset management company called Investec. He started Conversation of Money, which is about money matters such as investments, pensions and money management also. He also boasts a podcast, YouTube, and also one-to-one coaching. So please, everybody, welcome to the show, Pete Komolafe from Conversation of Money.
Cheers. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. This is really, really cool. I'm normally the one actually interviewing people for my podcast. So to be invited on as a guest to someone else's is really nice. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it must feel strange for yourself because, and also as well, I just wanted to mention thanks for everything that you're doing online. I think it's absolutely amazing. I came across your YouTube channel a few years back, and the first video I watched was Why Should I Invest in Tesla? And I absolutely loved that video. I thought it was amazing, and then I just, subscribed, and I've been, a big fan of your channel for some time now. So, and I think it's really important as well. And the reason why I wanted to get you on, it's a new year. It's a fresh start for a lot of people. There's a lot of people in difficult situations, and not only people in difficult situations, there might be people as well that are doing well for themselves as well, but they want to make a bit of extra money because we know that it's very tough times. Food prices are raising, everything's raising, and a lot of people are struggling to survive on one job. So having that extra bit of income, I think, would be fantastic for a lot of people. And after looking at your channel, after looking at your podcast, after looking at your content throughout social media, I just think it's amazing that you can, use your experience, working for, the banks and working for investment asset management companies to, utilize that experience and provide it to people out there that may need that guidance. We've seen a lot over the last year or two with Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. Now the new thing is NFTs. So everybody wants to be investing, and retail investment has gone through the roof. So it's not just the big companies now. It's the, anyone from down the street who is working that is thinking, I want to get a piece of that. So, that's gone through the roof, the retail investors. So I think it's important to have this discussion because with, investments as well, you have to be careful and there's always risks involved. So we have to make sure that we state that and, only put in what you can afford to lose, what I always say. So Pete, please tell us all about Conversation of Money. What was the idea behind it? And how did it come about?
Well, first and foremost, thank you, because I've been creating content. This is my third year on YouTube with the podcast specifically. I've been on Instagram for a little bit longer than that, I think 4.5 years. And when I started on Instagram, it was 60-second videos every single day, just on a financial topic, trying to give a little bit of context and stuff. And through this is the third year now, so I create videos and I record my podcast in my home office. So when I have someone like yourself who's followed the channel and interacts with the content, reach out, it really does make it kind of like real. Because sometimes when you're in a room, you don't really know what impact you're having. But it's good to hear because it's kind of testament to why I started the podcast and the YouTube in the first place. I mean, my experience within the industry is I've got 16 years under my belt. I'm a qualified financial advisor, qualified mortgage advisor. I've worked with the banks, as you mentioned there. I worked for a pensions company in Canary Wharf. I was actually one of the execs there. It was a Fortune 100 company. I've got a lot of experience in the investment landscape. I mean, out of a 16-year career, 9 years of that have been in wealth management, which is investments, pensions, that kind of stuff. And one thing that I learned working in the industry during that period of time was, well, I'm privy to a lot of information, and I know the information because it's my job to know it.
Right.
And I'll have conversations with friends of mine about, oh, are you paying into your pension? And they wouldn't have a Scooby what I'm talking about. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And then when you start to dig a little bit deeper as to why, it then became abundantly apparent to me that the reason why people don't understand what a pension is or how investing works or, the impact on the importance of investing and building for the future is because my industry, the financial services industry, have for decades upon decades made it more complex than it needs to be. Right. And you mentioned earlier, investing now. Every man down the street can go and invest thanks to Trading 212, Free Trade, Stake, and all of these new apps, eToro. So why is there not enough information out there that is provided in simple English for people to understand, to empower them to make the right decision? So Conversation of Money really came about because I wanted to share my years of experience in the space, try to create content that is easy to understand. I don't use jargon. I try not to use jargon as much as I can. If I do use jargon, I'll break it down and explain exactly what it means, but making it relevant and making it real to people. Because investing is one thing, but I always say that, I always ask the question, why are you investing? If you can answer that question, everything else becomes so much clearer. And that's the purpose of the podcast and the YouTube channel and essentially what I do now.
That's brilliant. So you have the podcast, you have, and it's available as well on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all these platforms. And then you have the YouTube channel. And also you have one-to-one coaching. Is that right?
Yeah, so I do one-to-one coaching. And that is pretty much for people who basically have ended up watching a lot of YouTube videos. Content is great, by the way, and there's so many people in the space making, investment videos and so on and so forth. But what I found is that people will go to YouTube, they'll watch a load of videos, and there's a lot of information out there. Sometimes it's contradicting as well. And when they kind of take a step back and try to then make sense of what they've been watching and the notes that they've been making, they're still lost because they're like, oh my God, there's so much. Where do I even begin? So with coaching, what I try to do is I try to use my experience of being a financial advisor previously, working with wealthy people, to basically sit down, consult with people and try to answer the question of, right, why are you investing? And based on that answer, what are the things that you need to consider when investing? And that is a service that I think is quite unique in this space, because if you want to see a financial advisor, they won't tell you what their train of thought is, because they're expecting you to relinquish the responsibility of executing an investment for you to them. So they don't have to tell you what they're thinking. But I believe that if I can have a consultation with someone, I can say, okay, as a financial advisor, these are the things that I'm thinking. I'm thinking about your goal. I'm thinking about the length of time you're looking to invest for, why you're investing, the amount of risk that you're willing to take, whether you want to buy individual stocks, whether you want to go and buy Tesla and Amazon because it's all sexy, right? Or whether you should be looking at things like index funds and ETFs. Those two things are very, very different. The difference between investing and trading, because that's convoluted now because of this, the narrative on social media now. And if I can download and say, right, these are the key things that you need to understand and need to bear in mind, and these are the reasons why, it empowers people so that actually they can look at their options and say, right, this is the best one for me. And that's the whole point of coaching too. It's to empower people as much as possible so that I can give them a glimpse into the questions I would ask and the questions that they should be asking, with my background being in the industry for as long as I have been.
That's brilliant. And do you know what, touching on that as well, which is very relevant to what you've just mentioned, is we've seen recently with, it was last year with Gamestop, and I mean, it's huge. I think I'm pretty sure around the world everyone heard about it. Over here in the UK, in the US, and that was, Do you know what? It was a mixed emotions, because a lot of people were saying that, you know.
Did you buy any?
I did. I made a little gain, but
Okay.
I didn't go fully, fully in, like, proper, like, putting a huge amount in, because I was actually quite nervous myself as to what was going to happen next, because we really didn't know. It was a big gamble, and that's the problem. I feel like the media, the hype around it. I think a lot of people got burnt, especially like first time investors.
First timers did.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that AMC and GameStop is probably one of my highlights for 2021.
Yeah.
Purely because it was the first time where I think you caught the hedge funds with their hand in the cookie jar, doing something they shouldn't be doing. And look, I've worked in these environments. They do it all the time. This is the first time where a Reddit group was like, hang on a second, you can't short 120% of a stock of a company and via leverage, by the way. So you haven't got the money in the bank to cover that. You're taking like a debt to do it. Hang on a second, we need to do something about this because this isn't right. Then taking the opposite position to that hedge to squeeze them. Yeah. And with these kind of like price actions or activity that you see on the stock market, the first ones in through the gate are the ones who make the most money.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that you have with AMC and GameStop was it took on a life of its own, right? It was all over social media. It was all over the news. And by the time, and we have a saying in the industry, if you're picking up something by the time it's got to the news, it's already too late.
It's too late, yeah.
So what happens is people then start to pile in. The guys who have made money at the beginning because they were there first have made money. Those guys are going to start taking profits. Now you had Reddit groups that were saying, hodl and all this kind of stuff and diamond hands and all of that language. And people did make a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But there were also people, I was actually in the Reddit group, and this was at one point, I can't remember at what point during the year, it must have been, I can't remember the month exactly, but it was like 4 or 5 days after the high, and this person in the Reddit group was pleading with someone saying, please tell me what to do. I put all of my life savings in this. Are we still holding? What are we doing? And all you could see on the chart was the price is tanking and tanking and tanking and tanking and tanking. And people like that will get wiped out. And that's why I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah, the coaching,
because it's like, look, at the end of the day, I'm not your dad, I'm not your mum, I'm not your uncle, your auntie, or anyone of relation to you where I have an invested interest with you making money or losing money. My interest is, look, if you want to have a look at GameStop and AMC, these are the things that you need to know. And you need to know both sides of the coin. Because on social media, during that period of time, there was a lot going on YouTube, and it was all about you can be a millionaire waking up tomorrow. You can make so much money. There were very, very few people talking about the fact that, guys, if you've gone into this and you put all of your life savings into this and you don't have an exit strategy, you're screwed.
That's right.
And I think with what I do, it's all about giving you both sides of the coin so that you can make an informed decision. And that is the power that we all have as potential investors, the ability to make informed decisions. But that is predicated on getting reliable information. And I think maybe that's something that sets me apart, because I'm one of the very, very few people on social media and on YouTube that is actually qualified as a financial advisor, who's actually worked in this arena. There were a lot of people who have obviously just started investing themselves, and they're sharing how their progress and how they've gone, performed and what they've learned, which is fine. But I think if you're trying to make really big decisions, you need to look wider than the hyperbole and the clickbait content that you're going to see online.
Yeah, and that's right as well. I always say it's good to learn from people that are within that industry, it's good to do your own research, but like you're saying, with your coaching, and people within your industry, you're going to get more informed decisions, and it will help you decide, what you should be doing, what plan you should take, how you should study, how you should research, how you should learn. Because even little things, I'm sure you will know where I'm coming from this, simple terms that they use, to us is simple terms, but to some people that are new to it, they'll be like, what the hell is this?
Absolutely.
Like tickers, market cap, buying the dip.
Yeah.
I mean, people will be watching this that aren't, investing, or people that, they haven't made a trade yet.
And that's the thing that puts people off, though.
Exactly.
That's what puts people off beginning in the first place.
It's all the jargon, the lingo.
The jargon.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it's too complicated for ordinary people to understand. And when you just explain that actually a ticker is a short form abbreviation of a company's name.
Yeah, that's it.
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Tesla, TSLA. Google, which is alphabet essentially, it's GOOGL. It's very, very simple. But if you explain it like that, people can grasp it.
That's right.
But it's very, very easy to throw away jargon and be like, oh yeah, we're using this ticker, we're going to look for this price point, and we're going to be looking at buying this dip, and we're going to be leveraging on the way up. That's going to confuse anybody who doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right.
And so that's why it's important to provide that foundational side. What I've noticed over the 2 years that I've been doing it on YouTube and coaching and stuff is people often skip the foundations, and that is really, really dangerous because they want to get to the sexy stuff quickly. And, the analogy that I often use is, as a baby, you don't, on day one, just get up and start running. You crawl.
That's right.
And then you stand up, you start walking around, a little bit unstable, you'll take some tumbles, you take some falls, but all of a sudden you're confident, then you get into your stride, and then you progress into running. The same thing applies when it comes to investing and finances,
That's
really.
right.
You've got to find the foundations and get the foundations in place.
I mean, personally, for me, I'm not a trained advisor. I just learned from, I did research, I was studying myself, and I think I'd done it for like well over a year and a half, like coming up to 2 years, and I never invested a penny because I thought to myself, I need to learn this thoroughly before and even now I'm still, there's nowhere near, I would nowhere near be your level of expertise, but it gives you the foundation to understand what is going on, because even just listening to CNBC or BBC and they're coming out with all these terms and, market cap and this and that, mergers and all this type of stuff, even, mergers, that's even business terms. It's not even just for, trading or investing, but you need to understand business, you need to understand economics, you need to understand how money works within companies, why they, sell their stock at, sell their stocks, why do they merge with other companies, why is companies taking over their company, is it going to be a beneficial gain, or is it going to make the company go downhill?
Preach.
And these are the type
Preach.
of things which makes stock prices go up and down.
Yeah.
And without that knowledge, you're literally taking a gamble.
Yeah, but you know what, though? It sounds like you have an insatiable appetite to go and find that information.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that.
That's true.
And I think this is where, if I speak to a lot of my content creator friends or advisor friends on social media, so I'm thinking of Tyrone here. He's an American guy. He's a crypto whiz. Right. I mean, the guy's doing big, big things. He has a saying, him and Emlyn, and they kind of do similar things. They have a saying, you've got to meet people where they are at. Okay, so if someone hasn't got the insatiable appetite to go and seek that information independently, how can you meet them where they're at in terms of, okay, that person probably wants quick information, some context that is easy to understand, and will probably take information on in bite-sized chunks, right? You can't dictate how people consume content. But what I try to do is try to at least take my time to explain some of the content that is necessary for you to be able to get a grasp of some of the principles around investing. Because you're right, you have to understand economics. You have to understand, okay, so why does a share price go up? What actually moves a share price? Why is a dividend important? And if a company isn't paying dividends, does that mean they're a rubbish company? Well, actually, no. Some companies just don't pay dividends. Warren Buffett, greatest investor of our time, right? His company doesn't pay dividends. Yeah. Ironically, he's a dividend investor. He loves dividend companies. That's pretty much all he buys.
It's ironic, isn't
That's
it?
the top of his list.
Yeah.
But his company, Berkshire Hathaway, never pays dividends. Why? Because he's a big believer, well, if I've got more money available, I'm going to reinvest that money and maximize the profit. So he's investing in dividend companies to give that profit. He's reinvesting that profit. You have to understand those fundamental kind of like pieces of information and principles.
That's right.
The sad thing is, and the reality is, and this is the stuff that people don't necessarily want to hear, is that it takes time.
It does
for you to understand that, and that may mean a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. People often get caught up with YOLO. Oh my God. If it takes 3 months, 4 months, 6 months to learn this stuff, I'm going to miss out on all of these gains. And the way I look at it as someone who's worked in the industry, and I have this conversation with one of my friends all the time, if you're going to go and buy a company, if it's a good company, it's going to be here in 6 months' time.
That's right.
It's going to be here in a year's time, in 2 years' time. So it doesn't matter if you miss out on 6 months worth of growth or a year's worth of growth while you're trying to get the foundations behind you, because the decisions that you make now hopefully are for the long term. They're helping you build for the future. This is the stuff we don't get taught in school, which really frustrates me. With the society that we're in at the moment, where digital media is everything. You can pick up your phone and get stock advice, stock tips on TikTok in 30 seconds, 3 minutes, right? How can we not be taught the foundations of some of the principles around this in our schools?
Yeah.
And we're reliant on social media to be the arbiter of the information, to provide information from an unbiased basis. When, look, I'm an influencer. I hate that word, by the way. I hate that word, influencer, but I am an influencer. I've reluctantly accepted it. People are offered thousands of pounds to promote stuff. I got offered thousands of pounds 2-3 weeks ago to do a video promoting a particular crypto. I said no, because I'm like, I'm not going to promote something that isn't within the realms of my principles. That's in terms of, is it a good project? Could it potentially be a scam? These are all the pitfalls and hurdles that investors have to, negotiate these days, and it's very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, and I think it's really good that we're transparent with these things, because the importance of, like, what you're doing with your coaching is so important, for people to have these services, because you have to invest in yourself sometimes. Absolutely. To make a gain. And I feel like people might say, oh, well, I don't want to pay for coaching, I'll go on YouTube, I'll do this, I'll do that. Not to say that some of the YouTube content out there is bad, because there's great content everywhere. However, it's really good to invest in yourself, get books, go to people like yourself, get the coaching, get, people within that industry that have the experience, that have worked for companies that are, investing, to get that knowledge before you dive straight into it, because you don't want to get burnt. And we saw that a lot last year with things like Gamestop, or just people in general just going in because the hype of trading and investing.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. The foundations are really, really important. My overarching feeling about the landscape at the moment in the investment space is, from a consumer's point of view and audience point of view, we need to get out of the cycle of thinking in the short term. Like, it's not just in investing, it is also in everything. Fitness goals is short term, business, career, short term. We can't, especially in the investment side of things, continue to think in the short term. We need to be able to train ourselves, and it is a psychological shift. It really, really is. It does take time to kind of come to terms with the fact that, sometimes it's going to take longer than you expect. And the way I always, say this is, anything that is worthwhile having is going to be hard to get.
That's right.
If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
That's
right.
Exactly.
So you have to really anchor yourself into, look, why is investing an option for you? And that will mean different things to different people. The common thing that I get is, and I've had this a number of times when I have discovery calls with people, because before anybody books a coaching call with me, I'll ask them to book a discovery call so I can kind of get a feel for them. Yeah. When I say, why are you looking to invest? The biggest response that I often get is, I just want to have, a lot of money in an investment account. But when I ask why, there's never really a good answer to it. Yeah. Okay, so you want to have a lot of money in the investment account. How much? $1 million. Okay, why? $1 million is a good number. Okay, but why? There is never really a good answer to that.
Yeah.
And I try to say to people, I say, look, take a step back, let's have a look at where you are right now. What do you want to happen in a year, 2, 3, 4 years from now? Where do you want to be? If you could sit there, close your eyes, and visualize it, what does it look like? Tell me about it. Are you moving into your first home, your first property? You're just buying your first home. What does it look like? Is it a flat? Is it a 2-bed? Is it a 3-bed? Is it a 4-bed? Is it a great big mansion somewhere in Malibu, in LA? I don't know. Tell me about it, right? If that is the case, how much money do you need to actually get there? How much money do you need to make that happen? Then you start getting into the tangibles, like the real stuff. Because all of a sudden, it's gone from this like hypothesis, this fantasy thing of a new house to, okay, it's 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, it's a flat. What location? If it's here in London, okay, what location in London? Is it North London? What's the price range? You then have a number. So it's 400,000, for example. Okay, well, let's work backwards now and think about what you need to make that happen. Okay, simple rules are you're going to need a 10% deposit, right? So 10% of 400,000 is 40K, right? So that is your goal. That is your why right there. It's not £1 million. It's £40,000 to help you get on the housing ladder in 5 years or 3 years. And when you get to that point, you can then start to really pick out the work of what needs to happen. Yeah. Right, how much money are you earning right now? How much are you spending? How much do you have left over? How much do you want to invest? How much do you need to invest to get there over a period of time? If we assume a certain amount of growth in certain like stocks or index funds or ETFs, then you can start putting a plan together. And this is where it's not about feeding into social media and the images that you're seeing of a guy in a Mercedes-Benz or rocking a Rolex who probably took it out on finance and is in debt and regrets that he actually did it in the first place and is too proud to hand back the car.
That's right.
Right? It's not about that. It's about you and your journey.
That's right.
And the most important thing for most people to understand is it is your journey alone, nobody else's. Take pride in it and focus on your journey because you have 100% control over the things that you do to make your journey the journey that you want it to be. If you neglect it, you're not going to move. You're not going to be anywhere. You'll spend 2-3 years, look back and be in the same place. And that's time wasted. So when you really think about life, my slogan is money is a tool, life is for living.
I agree with that.
Money is a tool to help you build the life that you want. So if you're going to work every single day, 9 to 5, and let's just say you freaking hate it, okay, why not try and utilize that money to move you into a position where you can quit that job, go and pursue something that you want, or at least gain the things that you enjoy and you want in life. Those are really important fundamentals. But we get too caught up in social media and some of the really material, nonchalant things that in the consequence and the big picture of things, it really doesn't matter at all.
I totally agree with you on that. And that's something that I've always preached as well, that money is a tool. Because there is some people out there that they become mega wealthy, multi-millionaires, even billionaires, and they're still not happy because they didn't have their why.
I know a number of them.
They didn't have their why.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people who are very, very wealthy. I've got some friends who are very, very wealthy, still not happy.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think that that would be the case. And I think because I've been an advisor for a period of time and I've seen wealthy people, it depends on what camp you fall into. There are some very, very savvy wealthy people. And being around them for a number of years really opened my eyes. Then you have the other side of wealthy people who aren't as savvy, but they're still savvy.
Yeah.
Like you've got book smart and street smart. Like some of them are just really street smart. They know what's cracking. They know what's going down. Like they've got their finger on the pulse of things and they are strategic thinkers. You've got other people who are kind of like, they're just book smart. They haven't quite got their fingers on the pulse of things. And the habits are very, very different. The habits that I've seen in the most successful wealthy people that I've seen is they are extremely particular about their money. You think these guys go out and live a lavish lifestyle? Trust me. In comparison to what they earn, they spend very, very little.
Yeah, that's true.
And it is meticulously planned. So they, as wealthy people, and this is what poor people don't do, and this is one of the biggest revelations through my career that I'm like, I need to wake up and smell the coffee. They will have a look at, right, how much money am I earning? If I'm earning this much per month, how much do I need to like live the lifestyle that I want? That's a percentage, right?
Yeah.
They move that percentage over to the side. Then they look at, okay, what are the bits that I have to pay for, like my necessities, the mortgage, the car, all that kind of stuff. That's an amount, put that money aside. They then have a great big chunk left over. That goes into business, investments, properties.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And that's how they start to build stuff. And that's how it
right.
accumulates. What we do as poor people is we earn the money. We're looking at social media. Oh my God, that Mercedes. Boom, I've got to go get that. But we can't really afford it. We can't afford it.
Yeah.
But we commit that money to go and buy it so we look cool. And I can speak from experience in this. When I was working in Canary Wharf, I was walking around with Rolexes on my arm. We would go down and buy watches on our lunch break, right? I would walk around the office with £1,000 suit on and a £10,000 watch on my arm. I had a conversation with a colleague one day on a Friday. Oh, what are you doing this weekend, mate? Oh, yeah, I'm going down to my house in Cornwall. I'm like, hang on a second, but you got your flat in London. Yeah, we've got a second home in Cornwall. We just go down there maybe sometimes during the summer and all that. Okay. And I'm like, I have an idea of what you earn. I'm not too far behind you, but I'm looking there thinking, hang on a second. If you looked at this guy walking down the street, you'll think he's broke. Like, you know when people wear like trousers and they're stepping on the back of their trousers, on their shoes, and it's all torn and stuff. It's like that. He doesn't care about the outward appearance, the dressing, right?
Yeah.
But he's got assets. And I'm stood there in a £1,000 suit, a nice watch on my arm, and I'm thinking to myself, what have I got? Nothing. Because my background is, and for anybody who's listening, probably my age group, I won't tell you my age, you know, I grew up watching hip hop. So when you make money, what do you do?
It's very materialistic.
Yeah. You go and buy the nice suits, the nice clothes, the nice trainers.
Of course,
I spent £1,000 on a pair of trainers once. I've got multiple pair of those. Why? Because I needed to validate myself. Within my head, I felt I need to validate myself being within that environment in Canary Wharf with people who earn really good money.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, you look back at it and think, hang on a second. Those trainers for £1,000 I still have in a box. I've worn them 10 times. And they look so 2015. If I wore them today, they're out of date. They're not cool, right? If I put that money into a stock in 2015, or even bought Bitcoin in 2015, that £1,000.
That's right.
And this is the stuff that we need to think about. It's not about the material. It's not the outward expression of we have money that matters. It's building for the future. That's what really, really matters. So social media perpetuates that narrative that we have to have that outward expression of wealth. It's not true.
I totally agree. I mean, I recently watched a podcast. I won't say the name of the podcast just in case, but there was the founder of Gymshark, Ben Francis, and he even said that he wears the same outfit every day. Like, literally just blew my mind.
That dude is so humble. I mean, just think, I think he's in his 20s or something in there.
I know, yeah.
He's got his head on his shoulders. He's one of the people that I would love to have on my podcast, to be honest. I know people who know him. And
it's like a billion market cap, his company, or something like that, isn't it?
The dude's got stupid bread. Like, stupid bread. In his 20s. Like, crazy, he could literally go and buy a Lamborghini and do all that stuff. He doesn't do it.
He wears a plain black t-shirt, a black jacket, like kind of like a bomber jacket, and then he just has his
tracksuits on.
And trainers, and he says he's comfortable. He likes this look, and that's all he wears.
But you know what it is, though? You get to a certain point where you have confidence, and this is very, very true. And I didn't really realize it, and I guess I've got the benefit of hindsight. We all, if you come from a poor background like I did, and like most of us in our community do, right? When you get to the point where you start to make money, there are certain things that you perhaps aspire to own and aspire to buy, and it's completely natural to be like, I've got to go do that. And you, to a certain extent, you have to do it for your own self, for that sense of I've done this. Yeah. But after you've done it the first time, it kind of loses its appeal.
That's right. Yeah.
Because when you have the money in the bank to buy it, you're just like, actually, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I know that may sound like nonchalant for the listeners, but it is really, really true. And I think experience tells you that. And if I were 20 years old listening to this conversation, I'd be like, Pete, you're talking absolute nonsense. But it is true. And I think it takes a certain amount of self-awareness. And someone like him, he doesn't have anything to prove anymore. No. He's focused on his business. And if you listen to Ben speak, He's more about growing the business so he has a goal bigger than himself.
That's right.
And that's really where it stems from. So the need to drive a Lamborghini or Ferrari, he doesn't have that. He's focused on his business because his business is employing people. He's making a statement. He's leaving legacy behind with his business. And I think for most people, when you get to that place where you know what that is,
That's right.
money then becomes a secondary thing because you have different things in life that you get fulfillment from.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's really, really interesting. I mean, it really does put things into perspective, doesn't it? Really, when you think about it, because you know, some of the wealthiest people, they're just very plain. I mean, you know, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos,
Warren Buffett,
Richard Branson.
Not a Gucci belt in sight.
Yeah. That's true, exactly. And they're just very, very plain. And they're more interested in utilizing that money in various ways so it can grow, isn't it?
Yeah, and have wider impact than, you know, some of the maybe personal things. I mean, these guys, they would have done pretty much everything that they want personally. They've got to that point where they're comfortable, and I think when you get to that level of wealth, it is about being able to impact people beyond your own comfort circle and stuff. I mean, Bill Gates giving away all of that money in his foundation. It's fantastic, you know. The world needs that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, brilliant.
Not to invest all your money into a bank account because that would be ludicrous. But if you do have money that you are able to, you know, invest into stocks, into companies, once you've got the understanding, once you know what you're doing, once you've got the advice, you know, the coaching, etc., what would you suggest is the best way to start? But also as well, please let people know the benefits of investing your money, some of your money, a portion of your money into stocks, you know, compared to having it sitting in a bank account.
Okay, so let's start with the latter question first. Why? What are the benefits?
Okay.
So if you've been following the news, if you pay attention to the news, there's this word, there's this phrase or word being thrown around called inflation.
That's
okay?
Right.
So if you think about the dawn of investing, the whole purpose of investing in the very, very first instance was to beat inflation. So what is inflation? If you go to Tesco's for your weekly shop, and this week your shopping costs 100 quid, right? Then fast forward 12 months or 6 months, your weekly shop then goes from £100 to £120. That £20 difference is inflation. So essentially, inflation is the impact of the cost of goods and services around you increasing in price. So in other words, if you're earning, say, £100 a week and you're spending all of your £100 for your shopping, if you continue to earn £100, your pay doesn't increase over that period of time. By the time you fast forward to the point where you're paying £120 for your shopping, well, first and foremost, you can't buy the same basket because prices have increased, so you're getting less for your money. That's the general principle around why people invest, to beat inflation. Inflation is a big conversation right now because typically the UK government, the Bank of England, tries to keep inflation at 2%. Right. At this point in time, we're running over about 5% at the moment. I think the last number was 5.2%. So it's over double, which means that if you have money in the bank, you're losing value, meaning whatever you have in, say, £100 in the bank right now, you're not going to be able to buy the same amount of stuff or the same things that you could have bought with your £100 in the future because you're losing money. So that's the main reason why you should start investing. Now, for most people, the easiest way to start investing would be to use things called index funds or ETFs. Now, an index fund and an ETF, they're very, very similar. But the analogy that I use for this is, say, and I always get the name of this wrong, and people always point it out to me on social media. Think about a box of chocolates. To Quality Street or Coronation Street?
Yeah, Quality Street.
Quality Street, right? So in a box of Quality Streets, you've got different kinds of sweets in there, right? Different wrappers, different flavors. An index fund or an ETF is essentially that. So imagine you go to the shop and you go and buy a box of Quality Streets. And you might have 100 different sweets in there.
That's right.
And the money that you invest goes into each of those sweets. So each sweet is a company, which means that you get a basket of 100 companies for the money that you're investing, which means that ultimately, if you look at Tesla, Amazon, Apple, Google, for example, right? These will all be companies' sweets in that basket. If these companies perform well, you've got greater chance of success because you're investing in 100 companies as part of a basket. Now, that's the easiest way. It is very, very cost effective to do that as well. The other way that people often invest, which has been the trend over the last maybe 24 months, is to buy individual companies. So like Tesla, I've got £1,000. I'm going to put all of that money into Tesla. Well, unfortunately, you can't control what Elon does. You can't control any of the economic news or things that might mean that the Tesla share price, which can be very, very volatile, might go from $1,000 a share to $800 a share overnight, and you have no control over it. So essentially, you're putting all of your eggs in that one basket. So as opposed to having a box of Quality Streets, you're buying a Mars bar. And you're betting on that Mars bar's value increasing over time. It means you've got higher risk in that one company. Whereas if you have it in 100 companies, you have more chance of a success, because it doesn't matter if 20 companies or 30 companies don't do well that year. You still have 70 that can do so. So that's the easiest way for people to start investing. The good news is there are lots of platforms that you can go to. Vanguard is probably the most popular one. You can go onto their website, vanguard.co.uk or vanguardinvestor.co.uk, and you can start to have a look around at some of their options in there. Very, very cost effective. All of the work is done for you. All you essentially do is open an account and you send them money and they manage it for you. It's very, very simple to do. And I've got lots of videos on YouTube that talk about it as well.
You do as well, yeah. And also, I think there's apps as well, like, is it like Wealthify, Nutmeg, and things like
there's
this
quite
as
a few of those as well. I mean, you've got Money Farm, you've got Wealthify, you've got Nutmeg, you've got Plum, you've got Wealth Simple's just been taken over by Money Farm though. So there's a good number of apps as well that will do it on your behalf. The key thing here is if you're going to start or you want to start investing, research is really important. So my channel is a really good place to start. I don't use, jargon, and if I do use jargon, I'll explain what it essentially means. But I try to give you both sides of the coin so you can kind of feel your way around how you're going to begin. Not everybody needs coaching. Some people don't want coaching. Some people are actually quick enough to be able to be like, okay, I get that, I understand that, and be able to put the things together. But if for people who do need coaching, then coaching is also available.
That's brilliant. A lot of people that watch, your YouTube channel, and they go, to your Instagram, your podcast, etc., and have been on your coaching as well. I'm sure they're well aware how good it is, because I personally, I think it's fantastic. And I started looking into books, and I did a bit of YouTube, but I felt it was very engaging and it was really easy to understand. And even my wife, I showed her your video, and we actually did invest in Tesla.
Okay, good.
Because
when did you get in?
I think I got in when it was around about. I think it was about 4:55.
Okay,
because
so you're sitting on some nice gains right now. Yeah.
Because what happened was they did the stock split.
Yeah.
And I got in.
So
just
did you get in pre-stock split?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, you're sitting on some mega gains. Yeah. Well done, mate.
Yeah, and that. It just really inspired me, your video, and unfortunately for my wife, she got in after. But I got in. I said, "I told you so. I told you so," and she was like, but she's still done very well though. She's still near enough double what she's gained. But I think. But sorry, I went a bit off track.
That's okay.
But what I'm trying to get at is that it's just so important to learn. And I think that the best thing to do is to start with the coaching. Get your knowledge up, get your skills up, learn about the industry, learn about the terms, all of that kind of stuff. Because one thing I don't like to see is that the youth getting burnt from a young age. And there's so many different things, like we've mentioned. If you're new, you can start off with the Vanguards. These these companies have been here for such a long time, and they always have done very, very well. They have a very good track record of making people money. Dividends as well from companies as well. Look into dividends, see what that can do for you.
So you have to understand how you're going to research a company, and what I mean by that is, okay, if you think about the companies that we use, that we know of day to day. So most people have an Apple iPhone.
That's right.
So let's think about Apple. What do? They produce the iPhone, the MacBooks, the iMacs, Apple Watches. What else do they do? Whole suite of programs, right?
Yeah.
How much money do they make? How big is their market? Most people who have a smartphone have an Apple, right?
Yeah.
Android very, very close behind. So globally, they're a big mammoth company. Their market cap, which
That's
is
right.
how much the company is worth, is
Trillion,
over
isn't
$1 trillion.
Yeah.
Okay? They have a lot of cash reserves, so money in the bank for R&D, research, development. That's how they can plow money into bringing out an iPhone 13 12 months after they did a iPhone 12.
That's right. It's always good to back a company like with the fundamentals, the cash, the
Exactly.
reserves.
So what you're looking at is, right, what does the company do? What's the company sell? Do they have any competition?
That's right,
Apple's competition will probably be people like Android and stuff, but they have the market share. So they have a advantage in that market space. They make better software, better interfaces, better phones, right? You got to think about that. Then you think about, okay, so is it likely someone else is going to replace them? Probably not. They're making good money year on year because they manufacture new phones, and those obviously do very, very well. So you think about fundamentally what the business does. You have to understand how to research that. I'm just giving a very, very high level analysis of that. You can go further into how much they're actually making on a year-to-year basis. Are their revenues, so the money that they're receiving, is that increasing year on year? If it's reducing, why is it reducing? You need to understand all of these little intricate things for you to know that, okay, I'm happy putting £1,000 into Apple. If you go and buy the box of Quality Streets, you don't have to do that because someone at Vanguard has already done that on your behalf.
Yeah.
So they will have people who will do all of that research that I've just said, and possibly even more. I mean, these companies, because they've got billions of pounds under management, trillions of pounds under management for Vanguard, they will be sitting down with people like Tim Cook and saying, Tim, we want to put 2-3 billion into you, but we need to understand what the plan for the business is over the next 2-3 years. As a retail investor, you will never have access to Tim Cook, but they do. So they're doing all of that work on your behalf, and that is the easiest route to go. So you need to understand how you want to invest. The argument that most people will have is, well, I could make more money if I just go and buy that one individual company. Yes, but you also have a higher risk. If something happens to Apple, something happens to maybe legislation, a lawsuit, Tim Cook leaves, they have a new person that comes in, and there isn't confidence in that person and the direction the company's going to go, the company could slide back.
That's right.
You don't have any control of those things. So it's about risk and trying to balance that, understand how you want to invest. Once you know what that is, you'll understand what paths you have to take and what the next steps will be.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. No, thanks for that. That was really good. So what, I want to talk a little bit about pensions. So pensions are very important. A lot of people that are, in their early 20s or they just left school, it's something that really doesn't cross their mind because they think that, they've got an eternity to live. So what would you recommend is the best way to, find out more about pensions, and how would they choose the best pension for them?
Okay. So pensions, I can talk about pensions all day. It's one of those things that I'm very, very passionate about. I'll ask you a question, okay? And this question goes out to everybody who's listening, a rhetorical one if you are listening and watching to this, obviously, because you can't answer it. But to you, Rehnell, if someone said to you, I'll give you a certain amount every single month into your pension. So if you're earning 20 grand a year, I say I'm going to give you 5 or 3% of that every single month for free. Yeah. Would you take it?
Yeah. If I'm employed by them, yes. But then I also still look at investing and things like that. But I still think it's good to have a pension. Yeah. Yeah. But then I pretty much guess that some people they don't like it.
And we have to ask the question why, because essentially rules were brought in back around about 2014 that says that if you're working for a business, your employer has to contribute 3% of what you earn into a pension on your behalf.
Right.
It's free money.
Okay.
Pretty much. And then on top of that, the government says, well, actually, if you pay into a pension, I'll give you your tax back on the contribution.
Yeah, that's
25%.
right. Yeah.
Again, free money. When you put it that way, most people will be like, oh, actually, that makes sense. It's free money. I'll have that. Yeah. You can still invest and do all the other stuff on the side. That's not a problem at all. But actually, you've still got this free money that will accumulate for you over that period of time.
Right.
Now, the catch is with a pension, you still got to contribute 5% yourself. So if you look at books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about, Richest Man in Babylon, sorry. He talks about if you want to be wealthy, save 10% of your earnings, right? Well, if you put 5% that you have to contribute into a pension, plus 3% that your employer contributes, that's 8% of the 10 already. So free money, 3% of it, but 5% contribution to you, it's extremely important.
Yeah.
People don't like it because at the moment, it's seen as something that you can't access for 50 years. But we need to teach this in school. A pension is one of the most generous investment vehicles that you have, purely because of the ability to have free money from your employer, but also the fact that you're getting money back from the government as well. And there are further benefits that you can generate later on in life as well. And it doesn't detract you from investing in the stock market and buying individual stocks if you want to do that, but you should be doing both, not one or the other.
I totally agree. Do you know what, Pete? I really wish I had more time with you. I think we have to do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know when.
And maybe we could talk on cryptocurrency as well.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that would be fantastic. Yeah. And anything else that we've missed in terms of money management, in terms of investing, and even NFTs. That would be quite interesting as well. So I think, that has to be a must. So please, everybody, let everybody know where is the best place to find you, and if they want to contact you in regards to like coaching or any other services that you provide, what's the best method?
Okay, so Instagram is Conversation of Money, and that's all one word. YouTube is Conversation of Money. The podcast is called the Conversation of Money Podcast. So pretty much across any social media channel, Conversation of Money. You can contact me on my website, conversationofmoney.com, for coaching. I do have an investment course, which is an easier way for people to get some foundational knowledge. It's only $69.99, I believe it is, on the website. It's self-taught. You can complete it in 90 minutes. It's got tests and stuff like that in there. And as part of it, you also get access to a Discord group. You can ask me questions directly. So if people don't want to go down the route of coaching specifically, but they want that foundational knowledge around investing and how that basically works, the course is a really good place to start as well. But yeah, Conversation of Money across Instagram. I do live Q&As on YouTube every Sunday, so you can come along and ask me a question there if you like. It's typically between 8 and 9 p.m. that I typically start it off, and I take questions from people, and I do regular lives on Instagram as well.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, so today we had Pete from Conversation of Money. I think it's been a fantastic discussion. It was really, really insightful, and we've learned quite a lot of tips. I've even learned quite a lot of pointers from this discussion. And we've talked about investing, how to invest, how's the best way to invest. If you're a beginner, make sure that you do your knowledge, make sure that you get coaching, make sure that you learn from individuals that have been in the industry, and don't just take advice from anyone that is not qualified, because you could go down a pitfall like we mentioned with Gamestop last year. That stock plummeted, and a lot of people got burnt and from that. So I think if you want to go ahead with investing, remember that there's always risks involved when you make money, and that's with anything in life. Even if you start a business, there's risks involved. So, if you're going to invest, only invest money that you can afford to lose, so to speak. So, I think it's been a really, really insightful discussion. Make sure that you check out Pete on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Spotify as well. So thanks everybody for watching the discussion with show, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.